Hello and welcome back to another episode of From Prison to the Streets. I'm Eric. I did 11 years in prison and I talk about prison stuff. Today I'm talking about how prison or incarceration can affect your sleep in the long term. My sleep has been affected in the long term by my incarceration, and I'm going to share that with you guys. I'm going to talk about what my sleep is like, how that happened, and what prison kind of does to you. And so, yeah, that's what we're talking about today. But first, I do want to apologize for any background noise you guys might be hearing. It is 101 degrees outside today in Kansas with the heat index right now, and I'm not shutting my AC unit off. So, bear with me. You guys are just going to have to put up with my AC unit going in the background because I do not want my camera to overheat and I don't want to be miserable. Anyway, be sure to like and subscribe. I want to give a big shout out to my Patreon patrons, Kenneth Iman and Brian Kitchens, and I also want to give a big thank you to Robert Baker for your contributions to the channel. Thank you very much. With that, let's get into the video. So let's talk about how prison has affected my sleep in the long term, and I want to talk about what my sleep is like right now. This came to my attention because I've been doing vlogs and stuff that I put up on my Patreon, and oftentimes I will record those vlogs and even my videos for the channel late at night. Sometimes I'm up till 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, sometimes later. It is 4:35 in the morning. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning. It is now 1 o'clock in the morning. And usually I try to tell myself, hey, you know what, that's okay. It's easier to shoot at night anyway because the kids are asleep. It's not as hot. This office gets really hot. It's not very well insulated. I have a lot of work to do on this office, but that's beside the point. But I was going back and looking at my vlogs, and I've noticed a pattern, you know. As much as I try to justify what I do or say it's okay, it's not normal, and it does affect my day-to-day life. You know, it leads to a emotional disequilibration. That's a big word, and I'll talk about that more in a minute. But my sleep pattern is far from regular. I don't really have a set schedule on when I get up and go to sleep. I'll go to bed late and get up early, and when I am asleep, any little sound can wake me up sometimes, whether it's my wife moving around or the kids making noise. Anything can wake me up. Sometimes it's as simple as a door closing downstairs. And when I'm not waking up because of that stuff, sometimes I have really bad nightmares, or I'll wake up panicked. Or sometimes I just will have a hard time sleeping because I'm stressed out about stuff, or I can't shut my mind off. So that leads to a disequilibration of emotions. And what does that mean? Disequilibration is basically a big word that means unbalanced. My emotions won't be balanced. You know, I'll be more vulnerable to reacting rather than responding to situations. I'll get frustrated, or I'll lose my cool, get angry about a situation that's outside of my control that I might not need to get angry about. You know, anger has its place, it has its uses, but if you're just getting angry for no good reason in day-to-day life, it's pointless, right? And I'm catching myself getting frustrated with stuff and getting angry, and that's probably something that a lot of you guys can relate to. In addition to my emotions being unbalanced, my cognitive faculties take a hit as well. You know, you don't think the best when you're sleep deprived. It's hard to come up with ideas. It's hard to problem solve. It's hard to think critically about things. It's hard to dissect things. And that's something that's really important. You kind of just live with this mental fog when you're sleep deprived. And between your cognitive faculties and being emotionally unbalanced, what that leads to is changes in behavior. You know, we all have different ways of coping with adverse conditions. You know, some people will isolate, some people will turn to substance abuse to deal with issues, and you could have other antisocial behaviors that your sleep patterns contribute to. And you might be neglecting pro-social behaviors because you're sleep deprived. You know, there are definite physical effects to being without sleep. You just don't have the energy to do what you need to do, and some stuff legitimately makes you feel better. For example, working out sometimes can act as a mild antidepressant. So if you don't have the energy to work out, move around, get stuff done, that's going to bring your mood down, right? And when you're emotionally unbalanced and you're physically unbalanced and your behavior is suffering and you have all these other things going on, that's going to affect your interpersonal relationships. It's going to affect your relationships with your family members, people you live with, your friends, your relationships at work. For me, I have a wife, I have kids. When I'm sleep deprived, it affects my relationship with my wife, and oftentimes in a bad way. I'm not there. I'm not there emotionally. I'm not there cognitively when she needs me to be there. And I notice that and I try to fix it. But the point is, my sleep contributes to it. So let's talk about how prison may contribute to these sleep patterns. And maybe not just contribute, but I mean, they're a major factor, right? First, I want to talk about the hypervigilance that comes with being in prison and always being on guard and how that affects your sleep. When you're in a cell that has a solid door, like El Dorado had cells that were made out of cinder blocks. The front of them had a cinder block wall on the front of the cell, and they had a steel door in them. And there's an intercom button on the wall, and you press that button when you want to get out of your cell. However, if you're going to your cell and your door is closed, basically at the front of the pod, a pod is where people live in prison. You go to the front of the pod, there's a big glass wall, and beyond that glass wall, there's a control center with an officer who is in charge of opening and closing doors. He can kind of see everything that's going on in the unit from where he stands. He can open up doors for people. He gets over the intercom and tells people when to lock down, when it's time for chow, etc. So you'll go over to that glass wall when you need to get in your cell, and you'll let them know what cell you need open. So it'll be something like 318 or something like that. 318 if I was going to go up to cell 318. A lot of times the officer in the control station does not know where you actually live. There's probably 240 prisoners in a unit. That's what it was in El Dorado. And it's hard for them to keep track of where everyone lives. So they aren't going to check their roster to make sure you live there most of the time. They're overworked. They have all these people that they need to keep track of, let people in and out, let people out for ice, let people get their cleaning supplies and go up and clean their cell, all this other stuff on top of running the chow hall. You know, they got to call people out for chow. They don't run the chow hall. They call people out for chow. They open the doors for that. They open the doors for programs. They open the doors for yard. They do not have the time to sit down and go through their roster and make sure you live there. So you can get into a cell that doesn't belong to you very easily. You just tell them, hey, I need in cell such and such, and they're going to open that door. Now, the problem with that, in El Dorado, for a while, they were having this issue where people would get cell doors open that did not belong to them, and the purpose they were getting in that cell for is they would run in there and catch a dude while he was asleep and stab him up or hit him with a lock or something like that. So in El Dorado, you have to sleep very lightly. As soon as I heard my door start to open, it has an electric motor. You can hear it when it's opening, and then when it opens all the way, it opens with a loud bang. And as soon as I would hear that door run, I was out of bed, on my feet, standing at my door to make sure no one was trying to run up in my house and put hands on me or steal something, etc. So you're not just getting up in an instant. You are getting up and you're ready to fight in an instant. You have to be. Your adrenaline immediately dumps. You just get this surge of energy. You're ready to go. And you have to be. That's what that environment dictates. And how that translates to the streets for me, when I'm sleeping and I hear something going on around me, maybe it's in the same room, my wife is moving around, maybe the door opens, my kid comes in and tells me something, whatever, when I'm trying to sleep, I will wake up immediately, and since my adrenaline's pumping now, I can't get back to sleep. I'm all amped up. I'm ready to fight, even though there's no fight going on around me. And another note on sleeping lightly. You know, in Lansing, it's different. They don't have a cinder block wall at the front of the cell, and they don't have a solid steel door. At least that's not how it was behind the walls. That part of the prison is closed down now. I think they're going to turn it into a museum or something. But that's not how it was behind the walls. the front of your cell was bars. Your door had bars, your cell had bars at the front of it. And your bed was not at the back of the cell. Your bed was on the wall on the side of the cell. And what people were doing is they were taking mop handles or broomsticks and they were fastening a knife to the end of it, and they'd walk by someone's cell and stick that between the bars and stab them while they were sleeping and locked in their cells. So you had to have an awareness of what was going on around you. You listened for footsteps. You listened for people moving past your cell. And if you heard someone, oftentimes you'd wake up immediately because you had to be ready to go. And you didn't really want to get stabbed in your sleep. That's kind of an undesirable thing to happen to you. Now, in addition to sleeping lightly, the officers will oftentimes wake you up when you're trying to sleep. Officers come around every half hour to do security checks, and they shine a really bright flashlight, usually right in your eyes. It's really inconvenient, and it'll wake you up several times a night. You think, in prison, it's nighttime, they have security checks every half hour, all night long. You might get woke up several times by an officer doing security checks. In addition to that, if you are obscured from the officer's line of sight, for example, if you have a blanket over your head or a pillow, or they can't see you for any reason, they will tap on your bars with a flashlight, or they will tap on your door, and they will deliberately wake you up to make sure that that is you, that is not a dummy, and they want to make sure that you're still alive. So even if they can see you, if it doesn't look like you're breathing, if they can't see your chest rising and falling, a lot of times they're going to wake you up and make sure you're still there. There's been a lot of instances where guys just passed away in their sleep. Maybe they had a seizure, heart attack, whatever. There's a lot of people with a lot of health problems in prison. It's not uncommon for guys to just go to sleep and not wake up. So officers will make sure that you're there, you're alive, you're breathing, everything's good. Not all officers do that, but quite a few of them do. Now, it's not just security checks you have to worry about. Prison has a very, very odd schedule. They usually call chow very early in the morning, usually about 4-ish. And it could be an hour earlier, an hour later than that. But the thing is, they call chow. A lot of times they'll open up everybody's doors. They're not supposed to, but a lot of times they will. And then you're awake, and it's hard to get back to sleep. And then you have stuff going on all day. You have Medline and sick call. Around 7 is sick call, and then Medline is 9. You have lay-in yard, which is usually around 8 or 8:30. You have lunchtime, which is around 9 to 11 in the morning. In the afternoon, you have another yard. You have another Medline you got to go to. And then in the evening, you have count. You have chow, you have evening Medline, and then at night you'll have all your religious call-outs, you'll have another yard period, you'll have programs that you go to throughout the day, in addition to anything where a staff member is going to call you out. Maybe your unit team needs to holler at you about something, they'll call you out, or mental health will call you out for something, or maybe you got in trouble and you have to go to the captain's office. There's any number of reasons why they might call you out during the day. In the hole, it's even worse. So if you spend a whole bunch of time in the hole, your sleep schedule is going to be all messed up. And the latter part of my time, I actually finished out mostly in the hole. I was in the hole for over a year. And then when I was in the mental health unit, that was almost just like the hole. A lot of prisons operate just like the hole. You're locked down all the time. You don't have a lot of movement. The only time you really leave the cell is to go get chow, or to go to yard or something like that. And the rest of the time you're locked up, lancing behind the walls of mental health unit. We didn't really have a day room per se. So yard, showers, chow. That was basically it. Maybe religious call-outs, but you didn't have much beyond that. These old cell houses didn't really have day rooms. Whereas in El Dorado and medium security facilities, they have a day room that they can go to. They can go down and play cards at a table or watch TV or something like that. We didn't have anything like that behind the walls. But getting back to the hole, when you're in the hole, they run a lot of things at night. So it's loud during the daytime, and then at night, They'll run showers between 10 o'clock at night and midnight usually. And they also run yard from about 11:30 till sometimes about 3 o'clock in the morning. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, that's when they start running chow for the day. And you also have a morning medline, which is around 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So even if you don't go to yard, let's say you take your shower and you go to bed, right? Let's say they run showers early at between 10:30 and 11, and you get to sleep. Well, they're going to wake you up in a little bit and ask you if you're going to yard, whether or not you are actually going to yard. Let's say they do that at about 12 o'clock, at about midnight. In another hour or two, someone's going to wake you up and ask you if you want to take your medications. And then you lay back down, you try to go to sleep, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, they're running chow. So they wake you up for breakfast. You eat your breakfast, you lay back down, and 7 o'clock rolls around. You have a mental health professional at your door asking you if you feel okay. And you try to lay back down, and at 9 o'clock in the morning, you have chow being passed out again. And that's just kind of some examples of the messed up schedule in the whole. You know, it's really hard to get a decent amount of sleep. And then during the daytime, it's pretty loud. So it's just hard to get sleep. You usually don't get more than 3 hours at a time. And that is actually about what I get now, even though I'm on the streets. I usually get about 3, maybe 4 hours sleep per night. So what's the point of me sharing all this with you guys? Am I going to give you any pointers on how to fix all this? Well, I'm sorry to say, I don't have the answer. Otherwise, I'd be sleeping like a baby. Well, I think I probably already sleep like a baby, given that babies rarely sleep. But there is not necessarily a easy answer or easy solution to this, and I haven't figured it out. However, knowledge of a problem is a first step at solving the problem, right? You're not going to apply yourself and try to solve a problem if you're not aware of it. So that's the first thing, is just to bring awareness to this and let people know who might be going through a similar thing, people who are getting out of prison. This is something that you might struggle with, and this is something that you need to be aware of. Because when your behavior is suffering, your mood is suffering, your emotions are unbalanced, physically you feel drained, you don't feel there cognitively, it helps to know what is contributing to that. What is contributing to that problem? Is this the way you actually are? Are you really just a moody person? Are you really just depressed all the time? Are you really just an irritable asshole all the time? Or does your sleep have something to do with it? Are you always just physically drained? Why is it that, a few years ago you were working out all the time and now you're not? You just feel drained physically all the time. Your sleep has a lot to do with that. So while I don't have a clear solution for the problem, I will say that awareness of the problem is a first step of solving a problem. And being aware of it helps rein yourself in. When you are aware that you are emotionally unbalanced, when you are aware that you're sleep deprived and you're more prone to react rather than respond, or you know that you're sleep deprived and that's going to make you more likely to be depressed, or you know that you're sleep deprived and you know that you're more likely to be physically drained and not all there cognitively, it helps you understand what's going on. You can make note of that and say, oh, I feel like this right now, and I'm really, really tired right now. Maybe I need to go try to take a nap or something. It helps you look for solutions when you're aware of the problem. I also wanted to share this with you guys because I want you to understand that it's okay to struggle with stuff like this. It is okay. And sometimes you have to accept things that you can't control, and you have to accept things that you can't change. And sometimes you have to accept things that you don't know how to fix. I like fixing things. I like solving problems. And I sometimes get really, really frustrated when I can't solve a problem. But it's okay to not have an answer for everything. It is okay to be weak in some areas. It is okay to have flaws and defects, especially if you are aware of them and you are actively trying to change them. It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to not have all the answers. No one expects that of you. Nobody that I'm aware of on the face of this earth has ever had all the answers and has been perfect and without any sort of character defect or behavioral defect. Everybody has problems. Everybody has stuff that they struggle with. You are not alone. It's okay to not be perfect, especially if you're pursuing your goals and you're trying to fix whatever problem you're struggling with. Not only is it okay to not be perfect, you should be grateful for the awareness that you have in the self-knowledge that comes with imperfection. A lot of people don't look at themselves critically. A lot of people don't make note of what they're not good at. A lot of people don't make note of all the failures that they have in day-to-day life and all the things that they need to fix. So if you're aware of that, you're one step ahead of everybody else. It's good because you can look for solutions and you're aware of your limits. If you're aware of your limits, you can say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to put myself in this situation today. I'm really tired. I don't think I can do large crowds today. They kind of give me anxiety. Or you could say, hey, you know what? I don't think I'm going to try to work on this car today because I'm really tired and I feel like I'm just going to get frustrated if I mess with it. Those are just examples. That's stuff that I do from time to time because I try to fix stuff, but when I know my limits and I know, hey, I'm not doing a very good job here, I'm really tired, I need to rest before I try to tackle this problem, that helps me a lot. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm going to end this here for now. I'm Eric. This has been another episode of From Prison to the Streets. I will see you all later.